morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2023 Hays Asia Salary Guide webinar. Before we get started, I'd like to give our guests another 2 minutes to get settled so they can tune in. Hello again and welcome to the 2023 Hays Asia Salary Guide webinar. Thank you to all of you who are here today, and special thanks to our guest speakers for taking the time to share useful insights with our audience today. My name is Vishalini Devi. You can call me Visha. I'll be your MC for today. A little bit about myself. I'm the manager for accountancy and finance at Hays Malaysia, specializing in recruiting for finance executive roles. With a background in psychology, I've always been passionate about understanding the workforce and promoting thought leadership in employee attraction and retention. I'm thrilled to be your host for the 2023 Hays Asia Salary Guide webinar. Join me as we delve into the latest salary trends and market dynamics across Asia, sharing valuable insights and empowering you to make informed decisions. I'm excited to guide you through this engaging webinar and provide you with actionable knowledge for your career and organization. Today, we will be discussing findings from our latest salary guide that are specific to the employment market in Malaysia. Our aim is to help you navigate the ever-changing job market and provide insights into the trends that are prevalent in today's job economy. We will start off with a brief introduction of Hays Malaysia, followed by an exclusive market insights from the 2023 Hays Asia Salary Guide by Natasha Ishak and David Hedges from Hays Malaysia. And lastly, the panel discussion, which will be moderated by me and joined by three esteemed guest panelists, Noor Azza Sulaiman of RHB Group, Wiba Vishnia from TMF Group, and Ken Lix Lee from Labuan Ray Insurance. We will also be answering questions that were submitted by our audience during our registration. Before we get into the data, I would like to give everyone a quick introduction of who we are and what we do. Hays is a global recruitment service organization operating across 33 countries, and 33 countries and regions globally. Here in Malaysia, we have just over 214 permanent employees and enterprise solutions that recruits for professions across 13 sectors in permanent recruitment, recruitment process outsource, and managed service program. Across Asia, we are currently operating in 7 markets: Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, mainland China, Hong Kong, India, and Japan. If you have any question about our service, please feel free to contact our consultants anytime. Without further ado, let me introduce our speakers for today. Natasha is the Regional Director for Hays Malaysia. She has been with the business for over 10 years, growing the first office in Kuala Lumpur and subsequently the Sunway office. Today, she leads a team of over 200 recruitment consultants, providing quality workplace solutions to businesses nationwide. Next, our second presenter for the day is David Hedges. David has over 15 years of extensive recruitment experience in England, Singapore, and Malaysia. David's recent promotion to the head of Sunway office grows his responsibility to now overseeing all the recruiting specialisms in the Hayes Sunway office. Now that we have introduced our key speakers, I would like to pass the floor to Natasha Ishak to share the key findings from our latest publication. Over to you, Tash.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Visha. Good morning, welcome, and thank you everyone for taking the time to join our 2023 Hayes Asia Salary Guide webinar. It has been an eventful time last year as we progressed out of the endemic, and now we gather again to look into what's installed for the future of the employment market in Malaysia. This survey was conducted across 4 weeks in late 2022 with a sample size of 10,191 respondents across Asia, covering 5 countries, that is Malaysia, Singapore, Japan, Hong Kong, and China. I would like to thank all our respondents who have participated in the collection of data. Our 2023 Hayes Asia Salary Guide report was launched in March, and if you are in our email list, you would have received the link to download. Now, without wasting any time, let us jump straight into the heart of the data. Overall, 2023 looks positive, with organizations in Malaysia expecting business activities to increase by 75% compared to 69% last year. This is great news for us in Malaysia. Despite the economic challenges on a global scale, I think it's still too early for us to see how it's going to be affecting us in this side of the region. So far, Malaysian organizations rank the highest in their business activity amongst all the other markets we operate in Asia, whereas China respondents are more conservative in their expectation for business activity. Organizations in Malaysia also displayed an increased level of confidence, with bonus payouts increasing to 87%, a 3% increase from the previous year. We also noticed a huge leap in permanent staff levels across organizations, jumping from 32% to 56% in 2023, a strong indicator that organizations in Malaysia are adopting positive growth strategies in the coming year. Based on the recruitment activities that we are seeing from our end, the 3 functions that are expected to surge even further this year are technology, sales, and accountancy and finance position. Now, if you would like to understand in further details the type of roles that are surging in demand, do reach out to our specialists in these areas for additional consultation. Now, let's explore to the motivating factors that influence employees' decisions on whether to stay or leave their organization. The rise in business activities will be welcome news to job seekers in Malaysia. Like previous years, Malaysia was rated to have the highest number of job seekers across the region, with 33% active job seekers and 50% of people who are open to opportunities but not actively looking. Moreover, it is visible that retention strategies of employers in Malaysia are starting to work, as there has been progressively fewer people actively looking out over the last 3 years. I'm saying that in comparison to 2021, where there was 44% of active job seekers, and in 2022, where there were 39%. So there has been a decrease this year with only 33% active job seekers. Undoubtedly, salary continues to be the strongest motivator, as 77% of respondents in Malaysia chose it as the primary reason in looking out for opportunities. This percentage has even increased from the previous year's 73%. Alongside salary, other motivators have remained consistent. Approximately 49% of employees value better workplace benefits, while 45% seeks new challenge in a different field or role. When we look at drivers for those who choose to stay at their organization, this year's salary package and flexible working options has taken precedent over work-life balance as compared to last year's findings. As employers, it is crucial to understand what drives employees to look for new opportunities. This understanding can be achieved through offering competitive salary packages and benefits, providing opportunities for career advancement and learning, and establishing a strong employer branding that creates a supportive workplace environment and fosters positive professional relationships. Now, when we asked respondents if they had received a pay rise from their employer in the past year, 71% of them revealed that they had, while 1.7% revealed that they received a pay cut instead. Of the 1.7% that received a pay cut in the previous year, only 31% revealed that they were compensated through reduced working hours and or were put on a sabbatical. We also asked respondents what their salary expectations are in the next 12 months, and 87% of job seekers told us that they expect their salaries to increase, while 12% kept a more pessimistic outlook, expecting their salaries to remain exactly the same. Of those job seekers expecting a salary change, over 14% expect to get an increment of up to 3%. 25% expects to get an increment between 3 to 6%, and 48% expects to get an increment of more than 6%. The good news is that this year, 88% of employers are able to meet these expectations and offer salary increments greater than 3%. That is great news in comparison to the previous years. We can also see improvements in perceived quality of work-life balance, as 42% of employees in Malaysia rated their work-life balance as good or very good compared to 40% last year. It is also worth noting that 19% of respondents rated their work-life balance as poor or very poor compared to 21% last year. Here's what organizations in Malaysia are offering in terms of working arrangements. 37% of individuals work fully in an office setting, while only 5% work fully remotely. A majority of 57% follows a hybrid work model, combining both remote and office work. Additionally, 1% falls into the other category, representing unique work arrangements such as overseas assignment. It is important to acknowledge that there are situations where employees who prefer to concentrate exclusively on work in the office environment may not view working from home as their preferred option. Upskilling the workforce has been a major topic, not just in Malaysia, but also globally. According to our survey, 54% of respondents expressed that even though they possess the necessary skills to excel in their current role over the next 3 to 5 years, they still believe that there is room for further improvement. This finding is evidence that the Malaysian employment market has a consistent demand on upskilling, where 98% of our respondents revealed that they prioritize the importance of upskilling. When we raised the questions to employee on the amount of time they invest in upskilling outside of their working hours, 72% of Malaysians revealed that they spend more than an hour a week outside of their job on developing their professional skills. We went further to ask if there were any challenges this working professional space in developing their skills. A total of 91% of respondents revealed that they are struggling with developing their skills, out of which 40% of them revealed that they do not have the time, followed by 20% who revealed that the skills they're looking to develop is too costly. Talent attraction strategies are of utmost importance given the skill shortages that continue to persist throughout the whole of Malaysia, where 33% of organizations reports a lack of confidence in hiring the skilled talent they need in 2023. When we drill down into the reasons for the shortages in the organization, 61% of organizations in Malaysia express that they are experiencing skill shortages due to higher compensation being offered elsewhere. 42% revealed that skills that they need are too niche and hard to source in the current market. And 29% revealed that their organization's brand identity, culture, or employer value proposition needs to be improved. Our data further shows a mismatch between the skills that working professionals are looking to develop and the skills organizations are offering in exchange. Now, these gaps aren't massively big, but there is still a bit of difference. Employees are expressing growing interest towards personal upskilling, and we asked them what sort of skills training they would like to have. Provided with a choice of 8 different learning and training opportunities, 73% of working professionals in Malaysia wants to grow their management and leadership training skills, followed by 64% favoring soft skills training and 58% looking to grow their digital skills. On the other side of the coin is the perspective of the employers, where 66% of organizations in Malaysia offers hard or technical skills, followed by 62% on soft skills trainings and 49% on management and leadership skills. To offer some context, this is how we define hard or technical skills. Hard or technical skills are skill sets that are technically required to be effective in a role, such as programming languages, common operating systems, software proficiency, technical writing, and data analysis. Additionally, digital skills here is defined as skills critical for job success and to participate fully in a digital society. Finally, soft skills here is defined as problem solving, communication, critical thinking, and time management. What does this mean for job seekers and hiring managers? It's clear that there is a slight disconnect between what the employees want and what the employers are offering. Now, by prioritizing the training and development needs that employees value most, employers can definitely improve job satisfaction and retention. For job seekers, it's important to communicate your career development goals and seek out employers who prioritize training and development. Together, we can create a more motivated and engaged workforce. Right. That's all from me for now. Let me pass you on to David Hedges for further insights on the Malaysian findings.
Thank you, Natasha. Good morning, everyone. It's lovely to be a part of this webinar once again. In the interest of time, we will jump right into building a more sustainable future in your organization. A key theme of the 12th Malaysia Plan is advancing sustainability, which outlines Malaysia's aspiration to become a carbon neutral country by 2050. This ambition is supported by 5 pillars in deploying renewable energy, managing carbon emissions, water and waste, driving the development of sustainable cities and accelerating the green economy. As more companies start to actively pursue their environmental, social and governance programs, general awareness on sustainability efforts has grown exponentially in recent years. That fact was represented clearly where Malaysia ranked second across the Asia region, with 54% of working professionals saying it is important that their organisation disclose sustainability goals and reporting the progress on them. Furthermore, 57% of working professionals believe that their company has already complied with development goals, in line with climate and consumptions. This is a positive sign indeed, as it reveals that organisations in Malaysia are making efforts to adopt to sustainable practices for greener, more environmentally friendly future. In addition, 54% of our survey respondents believe that their organisation implements sustainability reporting, providing stakeholders a transparent look into the company's efforts to achieve sustainable goals through their business activities. From these findings, we can see that companies are making efforts towards environmental sustainability, but there are still gaps that need to be addressed. And one of them is ESG skills gaps among Malaysian boards. As employers look forward to more initiatives, companies need to stay ahead in the ESG development, hence the importance of building ESG competent talents. When asked about gender distribution in their organisation, as seen on the slide, 51% of respondents disclosed that their company maintains an equal number of men and women, even at the management level. 29% of respondents shared that their company has equal number of men and women, but fewer women in the management level. Our survey also reveals that 13% of respondents has fewer women across the organisation, including at the management level. And 7% of respondents shared that there are fewer women across their organisation, but equal distribution of men and women at management level. The upcoming years will provide an opportunity to see how organisations continue to evolve in this aspect. We hope that you've been able to take away some useful insights from our report. Let's dive into recommendations for both employers and working professionals. Firstly, there is an increasing preference for work flexibility in pursuit of better quality of life. However, the end of 2022 saw more employers beginning to reverse hybrid and remote working policies that had been the norm during the pandemic years. While reasons such as productivity, business continuity, and the preservation of organisational culture are valid, enforcing rigid return to office policies could be detrimental to employee engagement and also talent attraction. There is no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to flexible work policies, but what could help is to strike a balance between work arrangement and productivity without compromising performance. Secondly, employers should determine the skills the organisation needs and help employees prioritise them by communicating development strategies and setting up structured learning or mentoring programmes. Sharing how you intend to deal with upcoming challenges, the opportunities you can offer, and embedding a sense of purpose will strengthen employee engagement and talent attraction. Focus on how you can enrich your employees' journey with the company by providing learning and upskilling opportunities that not only benefit them now, but which keep them competitive as their job scope expands and career progresses. Lastly, turn aspirational values into tangible action and make it part of the organization's mandate to create products and services that make a difference in people's lives. On top of compensation, one of the most important ingredients in employee retention is the sense of purpose and alignment of organizational values with personal beliefs. Today's stakeholders are very vocal and they speak out whether it's a negative or positive experience. By ensuring your internal stakeholders see the impact of the changes in ED and I policies or ESG practices helps to further promote a sense of ownership and thus belonging. On that note, for working professionals, adopting an innovative mindset through close communication and collaboration with peer networks would not only enhance innovation, but help to support their organization's future readiness. Being innovative isn't purely about experimenting and doing things differently. Instead, it should be primarily guided by authentic understanding of customers' needs, as well as an unbiased insight on the capabilities of the constantly evolving world of work. Secondly, be proactive in seeking out learning opportunities and try to involve their manager or mentors in mapping out their learning roadmap. As an employee, make sure you're having regular conversations with your manager to help them understand what skills you'll need to progress in your field beyond the next 3 to 5 years. In today's employment landscape, knowledge is no longer found only in classrooms or courses and can quickly become outdated. So finding the right platforms or sources for knowledge is key. Your manager will be your best advisor, as they'll have first-hand knowledge of the key skills the organization needs. Lastly, for many people, a purposeful career is a more rewarding career. To embed purpose in your work, create a connection between your task and the positive impact that it could have to your customer and external stakeholders. By making a connection between what you do and the bigger picture, you'll be able to fuel your sense of purpose. I have now come to the end of our survey findings. I do hope that you're able to gain some insights from this session. We'll now go back to Visha.
Thank you for the insightful sharing, David and Tash. I hope everyone found it very interesting. We will now proceed to the final agenda for today, the panel discussion. The findings from the presentation opens up several topics which I'd like to discuss. But before that, I would like to take this time to introduce the panelists. Together with us today, we have our first panelist, Noor Azza Sulaiman. Noor Azza was appointed Group Chief Sustainability and Communications Officer in May 2022. Noor Azza drives the execution and implementation of RHB Banking Group's sustainability and group climate agenda and strategy, in addition to her existing role in leading and managing the group's strategic communications function. She is also the CEO of RHB Foundation, where she leads the group's community engagement and empowerment initiatives, focusing on the underserved and underprivileged members of the community with an emphasis on children and youth. Our second panelist is Wiebe Wijnia, Chief Financial Officer, Asia Pacific of TMF Group. He has 15 years of experience of financial. He has 15 years of financial experience in multinational companies such as Deloitte, Suit Supply, and TMF Group. He has been the regional CFO since July 2022, covering 15 countries across Asia Pacific, and also a member of the Asia Pacific Exco in TMF Group, focusing on strategic plans for the region and driving growth's journey, both organic and inorganic. Finally, we have Kenlix Lee, Chief Financial Officer of Labuan Rare Insurance. Kenlix is a chartered accountant and member of the MIA, CIMA UK, and Association of International Certified Professional Accountants. He has over 24 years of financial experience within industries including life and general insurance and Takaful, FMCG, and manufacturing. He has experience in regional and national financial reporting, treasury management, regional corporate exercises in terms of mergers and requisition, Series B, Series C funding, setting up foreign-owned business entity, and IPO. Thank you for joining us today. In today's discussion, we'll be tackling a few hot topics related to flexible working arrangement, employee retention, and the importance of ESG and EDI in employee retention. 3 years ago, when the pandemic hit the world, remote working became the norm for most companies, which sped up digital transformation and technology. As the world recovered, many organizations transitioned into hybrid or flexible work arrangement, which made flexi working as the top consideration when looking for a job. At the same time, we also understand that some companies still require employees to be on site due to the nature of work or business needs. Azza, I would like to pose this question to you. In the post-pandemic world, how do we strike a balance between flexible working arrangement and performance without affecting productivity? And how do you keep your workforce engaged and motivated on-site and off-site?
Good morning. Thank you, Visha. Good morning, participants and fellow panelists. Let me just go straight into answering your question. Now, I think it's important for us to understand what are the key or common challenges of flexible working arrangement, before we can even look into striking that right balance between performance and productivity. I mean, in my mind, there are 4 key common challenges of flexible working arrangement, right? 1, obviously, lack of face-to-face supervision. 2, lack of access to information, particularly if you're working from home, right? 3, social isolation. You don't really get to mix, like on a daily basis with your other colleagues, right? The 4th is distraction that we get from working wherever you are, right? To me, these are probably the 4 common challenges that we all face when we work from home or from wherever we are off-site. Now, how do we then strike a balance between achieving the kind of performance we expect our team members to achieve, as well as ensuring that, we still get that same level of productivity? One, I think it's important that there is clarity and transparency in terms of expectation, right? We must ensure that everyone, our team members, ourselves as a leader, understand what are the key expectation, the quality of deliverables, what are the key milestone, the kind of quality of work that you would expect from them when, right? If we have clarity, I think both parties will probably be working towards that same goal. So that's important. Number 2, mutual respect and trust between leaders and team, right? for us leaders, we tend to micromanage, and me included. I'm guilty of that sometimes, you know. So particularly in that first couple of months of working from home, we were all kind of like learning to work from home, to work away from our team members. We are also used to sitting amongst our team members, right? So, you know, I suppose it's important for us to resist that temptation to overly micromanage, right? And instead of micromanaging, we learn to trust our team members, right? Trusting them, trusting in their capability, trusting that they will be able to deliver. So I think that's important for us as a leader. Number two, for our team members, they need to better understand responsibilities, right? And they need to ensure that, you know, they deliver in time. They need to ensure that if there are key milestone that needs to be achieved, they deliver on that key milestone. That's why I say the first one, clarity of expectation, transparency of expectation, that gets discussed and that gets agreed upon upfront. So these are the two things to me that's important. And the other is obviously, you know, ensuring that our team member have got access to tools, to resources, regardless of where they are, on-site, off-site. You know, we have to make sure that we have to make that available for them, right? Both in terms of software, hardware, or whatever information that's required for them to be able to perform the task, for them to be able to make a decision, right? And the fourth one is obviously tracking of performance, right? We must track their performance. I mean, not to say, again, avoiding micromanaging, you know, there must be some kind of a checkpoint meeting, right? Where we talk about where you are in terms of your deliverables. What are the key challenges that you're facing in delivering, right? So all this needs to be discussed. So that tracking is important. Now, how do we then keep our workforce engaged and probably motivated? I mean, I think that's probably also important, right? That's probably the next thing that we all looked at, right, Visha? I mean, I hope I've answered your question in terms of achieving the balance between performance and productivity. It's not easy, but I think both parties need to play a role in trying to achieve that. Yeah.
Definitely. I think it's very interesting to see how, from what you've said, the two components of support. One is from a technological perspective, having tools and resources readily available. And second, from the trust perspective, having that one-to-one catch-ups, or having that conversation, so you know you could track the performance continuously throughout their career. That's very interesting. Thank you so much, Azhar. Kenlix, I know you're the CFO, so I've got an interesting question to ask you. From a finance standpoint, how do you see digital skills impacting the organization as a whole?
Yeah, thanks, Wisa. And good morning to Hayes, to my fellow panelists, and also the participants. Thanks for having me this morning. Okay, so I'm going to take over the questions from Visha. From my standpoint, digital skills as data mining, analysis, coding, cybersecurity, digital marketing, and cloud computing cover an organization from the perspective of accounting, treasury, operations, IT, marketing to sales. So all of them give rise to a financial impact ultimately. So if you master the skills, you will see good savings, improved revenue, and better profit by the end of the day. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you, Kenlix. I think you know, having heard your comments, it reminds me about an article that I read about the rise of digital CFO. How the CFO's role is becoming even more stronger towards from a technological perspective. So that's very interesting. Reba, from a BPO standpoint, I know you've serviced many clients across various industries. What are your thoughts on shortage of skilled talents?
Great. Thank you. Good morning, folks. Happy to be, very pleased to be basically in this panel discussion. Last time in Singapore a few weeks ago, and now in my home country, Malaysia. Great to see the number of participants at this Thursday morning. Yeah, upskill. And so we are a compliance partner. So we are continuously looking for experts in the field of accounting and tax, HRP, HR and payrolling, and legal, general entity management. And luckily, Hayes RPO helps us in Malaysia to find the right people, so that really helps us. I like the in your question basically the shortage of upskilled talents. I think in that manner, What I find is that organizations, and it doesn't matter how big you are still not doing sufficient to basically upskill your talents. And we all know across the region in Asia Pacific, across the globe, that there's a shortage of people, right? And there are a lot of talented people, young people who wants to join a company, and then via soft skill trainings, leadership talks, all that kind of things, we can basically help the younger generation to further develop. I find it very important to give our people not a job, but a real career development. And related to that, monitor that on a frequent basis, and really listen to them, see what they want to do. And even in our organization, sometimes people move from an accounting role towards an HRP role. It's just a matter of how we facilitate that and that we are open in that manner.
Thanks, Biba. It's very interesting to see, because I think upskilling has been a common topic that has been discussed quite widely. A lot of companies are focusing on upskilling, and we also have employees specifically going on coaching and trainings in order to develop their career. People are not staying, I know roles are evolving, jobs are evolving, as do people as well, and the job scope that they're covering. So it's very interesting to see how, from an employer perspective, you could support the organization or the employees on this matter. Right. So I'm moving to a very widely spoken topic. I'm sure everyone has heard about it. Every time I go to LinkedIn, I keep coming across this term, ESG, environmental social governance. It's been a trending topic. In Malaysia, just last month, the government announced that they will introduce a framework of ESG standards by the end of 2023, which aims to assist companies transition to renewable energy. So Azhar, as the Group Chief Sustainability and Communications Officer for RHP, why is it important to invest in ESG, and what advice do you have for companies who are just starting out?
Thank you for the question, Visha. This is my favorite topic, okay? So, I've been going around talking about sustainability, and not just within the organization, but outside as well. Yeah, so this is my favorite question. Why is it important to invest in ESG? Very important, okay? We probably did not see this coming our way, I mean, probably 5-10 years down before, right? But now, I mean, you know, there are a few reasons why a company should embark on this journey. Number one, obviously, shareholders and stakeholders' expectations. You know, particularly if you're a listed entity, it becomes very important. Particularly if you're a company who's got cross-border transaction, it becomes very important, right? We're no longer living in the world where we are in silo, right? You know, we are living in a global environment where, you know, what we do here in Malaysia is not just it's not just going to affect you here in Malaysia, but it probably will be affecting your business as well. You know, if you decided to actually expand in other parts of the region and even internationally for that matter. So shareholders and stakeholders' expectation is important. Now, if you look at your organization or any particular sector, right, you will be able to define who your stakeholders are, you know, and if you kind of like dissect that further, right, we will then be able to understand that, you know, stakeholders are not just our shareholder, the shareholder that probably fund the organizations, you know, provide working capital to the organization, but stakeholder also cover your customer, regulators, employees, right, suppliers, supply chain, right? So there's a whole kind of list of stakeholder that you have to manage within the organization. And so, you know, each different stakeholder have got different needs and requirements when it comes to managing ESG. Two, regulatory expectation, particularly in the banking sector, right? Regulators are going on kind of, you know, not so much of, I would say, imposing, but they are now observing how organizations are transitioning towards non-ESG practices to ESG or sustainable practices. Three, as I mentioned earlier, business continuity, particularly for companies that are looking at expanding regionally or internationally. Right? So it become very important. For brand reputation. You know, at the end of the day, particularly if you're in banking, right? Now, even the younger generation are looking at companies with good, solid ESG practices before they even say, yes, I will join you. You know, so in that sense, it is important for company to embark on this journey. So that is to answer your first question. Visha, your next question is, what is my advice to companies who are just about to start, right? It is important for company to identify what are your key material matters. What's important to you as an organization? So it depends on your sector, right? I mean, if for us, for example, we're in the banking sector, we're in the financial services sector. What's important to us? What's important to us is really looking at climate. Climate is probably the most important today, right? Now, when you look at climate, you have to look at climate from two perspectives: managing climate change. Two is the commercial opportunities that comes with climate action. Okay. Number two, in the banking sector, what's important to us as well is corporate governance, right? Ethics and integrity. That's very, very important. Putting in place policies, procedures, processes to ensure that we manage our governance, right? Three is data privacy and security. That's important to us in the bank because we deal with customer information on a daily basis. Four, sustainable financing. That's important. That's where the commercial opportunities comes in, and that's how we help our customer to transition to low carbon practices. The other is financial inclusion. Now, financial inclusion is important. I mean, this is where, we ensure that everybody out there get the opportunity of opening a bank account. So when we talk about financial inclusion, we're not looking at just the top 20% of the population, right? We also need to look at the M40. We also need to look at basic banking products and services for the B40. So that's financial inclusion. So we need to kind of like cover every segment of the customers. Last but not least, but there are many, many other things within the financial sector which is important, but these are the few key things which I can think of, which is very relevant: diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, in the workplace, right? Gender equality, right? Making sure that not just gender, I suppose, making sure that, we give opportunity to just about everyone from a gender perspective, race, religion, cultural differences, and these are the things that's key, particularly in the workplace, right? Now, so these are the few material matters that's important to us in the financial sector. And depending on which sector you are, you need to identify this first and foremost. Once you know what's material to the organization, to the sector that you are in, then what you should then be doing is get buy-in from management as well as the board. This needs to be discussed. Now, in determining your material matters, it needs to be bottom-up approach, not top-down. The organization as a whole need to identify bottom-up, what are the key things that's important to us? What's important to our stakeholders, what's important to our customers, what's important to our employees, what's important to regulators, what's important to our shareholders, right? And then, we socialize that with the board, we socialize that with the management, right? And at that point in time, we get the buy-in from them. Once you have the buy-in, it is then easier for us to develop strategy, develop vision, develop aspiration for the organization. Now, what is important when we do that is always the key word is be practical. We took a very practical approach when I started this journey with the group. I mean, before I was appointed the sustainability officer May last year, but prior to May 2022, I was already doing the job unofficially. I mean, I wasn't appointed officially, but I was already doing the job, right? So finally in May last year, I decided, okay, this is probably the job I wanted to do, moving forward. So, always take a practical approach. Know what you can achieve in the shorter term, what you can achieve in the mid-term and the longer term. Remember, right, when you talk about climate action, I'm sure you guys have heard of the word, or rather the term, net zero by 2050. It's easy to see net zero by 2050 because we're not going to be here. I mean, I always say this to myself, I may not even be here in 2050. But then again, that's the reason why you need to be taking a practical approach. Know the appetite of the organization, the risk appetite of the organization. Know what you can achieve in the shorter term, in the mid-term, and in the longer term, right? And that's when you develop your target. What's your target for the shorter term? What's your target for the mid-term? And what's your target for the longer term, right? That's important. And, once you have that, you set your target and you put in place your implementation plan. And after that, next thing to do is obviously communicate. Reporting, disclosure, that's important because people out there need to know what you're doing, what's your aspiration? What's your KPI? What's your commitment? What are you going to do to achieve those aspirations? And you know, and share with them. And again, right, when you talk about net zero, when we talk about climate action, what's important is know your baseline. Do not just commit to net zero without understanding where you are today as an organization. And, you know, I'm sure everybody know this, right? When you talk about climate action, when you talk about finance emission, there are 3 scopes to that. Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3. I will not go into the detail. Probably take me another half a day if I want to talk about that. But, you know, when you know your Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3 baseline, you then develop your strategy towards achieving whatever commitment or public commitment that you want to achieve moving forward. Now, commitment is, for us, there are 2 types of commitment: external commitment and internal commitment. Internal commitment is something that I track internally, but I will disclose it at the end of every year. External commitment is where I go out publicly and tell the public, these are the key commitment that I'm making publicly. And you know, whatever external commitment I made, I have to disclose and track and monitor that publicly, right? And I will talk to analysts, I will talk to shareholders, I will talk to our customers in terms of our public commitment. Now, Visha, I hope I've answered your question.
Yes,
I can go on and on about it.
Definitely,
I know I
definitely.
don't
I
have
think
much
this is
time.
your forte for sure. It's very interesting what you've seen. I think what I really like is the journey that you've brought us through of what the company needs to think through, the pillars, the structure, the strategy. So it's really interesting. Thank you so much, Azhar. Just keeping on the same, just staying on the same topic, but deviating just a little bit. Ken Lix, I would like to ask you this as a finance leader, right? How do you demonstrate the value in driving digital transformation and social improvement?
Thanks, Risha. Well, it's a very wide coverage, I would like to say. I mean, as an international reinsurance company based in Malaysia, we have been covering our clients worldwide against the natural catastrophe and also man-made events. So throughout the years, throughout the process, we reckon and we realize that ESG is one of the key areas that we have to put our focus on, but that help us to reduce a lot a potential damages and also sources. So I agree with Noaza 100%. I think she has covered a lot of key interesting topics, which I'm not going to illustrate further. And probably I'm going to pick up a specific area for everyone ease of understanding. As what just now I mentioned early on, I call it cyber security. I think everyone is talking about cyber security here. Why I picked this topic? Because it incorporates finance and technologies, and it will give a link to the social improvement thereafter. I think we have gone through MCO a couple of years ago, and the current demanding business world, both of them have been praising emphasis on the digital methodologies, gateways, and transactions. Meaning, if you try to be friend with the digital transactions, looks like your business will see probably a hike or an increase. So that's why a strong and proven cyber security gives competitive edge to those practicing organizations while bringing safety and confidence to the users and society at large. So the higher and higher the secure your technology is, the people, your client will be more confident and
That's
business
for
will
sure.
be. So as such,
Yeah.
the value goes to the business competitiveness, public safety, and confidence. Thank you.
Thanks, Kenlix, for sure. I think as tech industry is booming and growing, we can also see the cybersecurity is sort of complementing and growing together with as well. So it's been rising quite steadily. Thanks for your comments, Kenlix. Next, I would just like to pose this question to Viva. Another rising element that we saw influencing employee retention is EDI, equity, diversity, inclusion. Very common topic that we're speaking. Can you give us some example of EDI practices in your organization, and what is your advice in getting the entire organization on board with EDI initiatives?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah, indeed, it's questionable what is more, right? ESG or EDI, but that doesn't matter. I think they are both quite important topics where we definitely should not close our eyes as leaders and where we are not talking enough basically to find out what does it mean for us, right? Equality, diversity, inclusion, and how on a daily basis do you drive sufficiently the discussions with your team members to find out what really drives them and listen well and make sure that you make it actionable. I think that TMF, over 10,000 people, close to 3,000 in Asia Pacific, over 500 in Malaysia. Yes, we definitely drive that journey. And a few practical examples, and probably you recognize those, right? But we recently in March celebrated the Women's Day, where there was a really nice self-defense course organized by our engagement committee to basically empower the women and to give some right attention to that particular day. Another one is I was last week basically in India with our APEC Expo, and there was a really nice women in leadership talk where, as Detta just said, women had the opportunity to connect, to speak up how they look at TMF, how they look at the EDI kind of aspects. What can we do as an organization to make sure that we keep them promotable and that we follow them towards the, I don't know, C-level leadership kind of roles. From a CFO perspective, it's always nice to make it a bit more measurable, right? So we always look at the ratios in that manner. And I'm very happy that we are close to 50% in our leadership in APEC, which is female-male ratio. So I'm very proud of that. But that is just one part of the story. The other part of the story is to keep that and to make sure that you include that. Another topic where we are a bit struggling, but still finding out, because it's not all perfect, is basically how to look at immigrants and migrants and the mobility across our global portfolio. So there's still work to do.
Yeah. Thanks, Biba. I think EDI will be an ever-evolving topic. And 50% is an amazing number, actually. It's an amazing ratio because not many companies has that healthy 50% ratio. So well done to TMF. That's good. That's really healthy. We have a few questions submitted by our participants during registration. And I will be posing these questions to our panelists just to give our audience a chance to ask questions. So our first question for Nur Azhar. Now that it's an employee-driven market, besides higher salary, what else can an employer offer? Does employer branding still play a role in talent attraction?
Well, to some degree, employer branding is still very important, still has an impact on talent attraction, particularly in this digital age, right? Where we're all very connected through all kinds of social platform, right? So yeah, I think employer branding is important, but there are a few things also to consider for organization. I think I noticed that nowadays work-life balance and personal well-being is something that has become very, very important, particularly in this post-pandemic era, right? Particularly millennials and the Gen Z, they are very, very into work-life balance. I notice. I can see that even in my own children as well, nowadays, right? I mean, two is company culture. I think that's important. We spoke about DEI, an inclusive work culture. Everyone need to feel that they're welcome, right? They are free to be themselves. I think the younger generation particularly value this a lot more. I mean, for people in my generation, it's probably a little bit different, but work culture is important. And normally I notice also, in our organization, employees want to see leaders walking the talk, not just going out there talking about work-life balance or talking about DEI, but practicing it and putting it into practice, right? The other is personal fulfillment. Employees today want to see, they want to make tangible difference, and they want to be able to see that their work actually contribute to the organization well-being. So they want to see that, right? And so that's why I say, earlier on I mentioned about expectation. I mentioned about expectation in terms of deliverables. All these are very important. There must be, what I kind of like see post-pandemic is engagement, communication is very, very critical. This is what I always say to the team, and because it's also part of my role in RHB Banking Group, we need to continuously communicate. You can never go wrong with communicating with your team members, right? So that's important. Also important, I think, is recognition and appreciation. Just not so much of, obviously money is important, and we saw that in your survey. Bonus is important, increment is important, but just merely saying thank you for what you have done. That, to me, I notice, right? They're happy when you recognize them, even in the smallest of way, and just by a mere thank you. So, in RHB, what we have done during the pandemic was we actually created an app where we can just say thank you to anybody within the organization, because we have 14,000 employees, and the 14,000 employees cut across Malaysia and the ASEAN region. So we created this app where we can just say thank you to anyone and everyone across the group for tiny little things that they've done for us. So it's either just a word thank you, or you kind of like wave through your app. So that works quite well, and they use that to the max, particularly during the pandemic, right? And the other is opportunity for career growth and development. They want to see more of mentoring. They want us to do more of coaching, beyond just that end of the year one-on-one performance appraisal. The mentoring and the coaching and needs to take place across the 12-month period, right? Just touching base with them and discussing areas that needs improvement, and talking to them about where do you see yourself in the next 1-2 years, and I notice also to the younger generation, this is very, very important, right? And it's particularly when we speak about working from home and hybrid working environment, this become even more important, because when you're working from home, you're working in isolation. Sometimes you don't know what's happening in the office. So again, the engagement needs to continuously take place, Visha. Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah, I think everything that you've mentioned is what I will hear during a phone conversation or an interview that I have with my candidate. These are all the top priorities that you've mentioned. But of course, my candidates come from different generations. I've got C-levels, I've got someone at the middle manager level, but their priorities differ. But generally speaking, these are the common factors that they would consider. Thank you so much, Azhar. I think it's very insightful. I'd like to address the next question to Kenlix. Kenlix, I love this question because I get asked a lot of times during my conversation with candidates. Should inflation rate be taken into consideration in determining salary increment?
Thanks, Risa. I think my answer is yes, certainly. I think the welfare of the talents shall be well protected from this national index list. As we know, as an organization, we have been spending resources and time to nurture, cultivate, and also to groom a talent, either internally or externally. So it takes so much of an effort from organizations. At the same time, we have to safeguard against the international competitions, meaning the competitor may try to get to deal certain colleagues from our side. So in terms of the compensations and to make them feel comfortable, I think this index should be well incorporated. So they should be protected. So that is my answer to you.
Thanks. Thank you, Kenlix. I think to a certain extent, I do agree as well that when you remunerate people fairly, according to the experience, you tend to attract the best talent for your organizations as well. So yes, I do agree with you. Final question, Weber. How does advanced technology such as AI affect the employment outlook?
Wow, that's a nice one, and I think quite interesting topic. If you look at the recent developments, the recent things that come up, I think the short answer is a bit unpredictable. But the longer answer is that if you look at the past, then we already were facing a chat box. We were facing already robotics, RPA kind of solutions, data mining, and we are still there, right? We still have a global workforce. We still have low unemployment. So I think we can definitely survive in that manner. However, if you look at, for example, recently ChatGPT, and it was very interesting because even someone out of my team asked ChatGPT how her career development should look like. So it was quite an impressive outcome, to be honest. But I see it more as an accelerator, and where companies, even in our space, financial service, more than 10,000 people, need to be mindful of how we can use that tool to make sure that we use our workforce and that we in a correct manner, in a good manner. Comes back a bit to upskilling. If this really comes alive, then we need to make sure that people understand how to work with it. And I think eventually I trust in the fact that the personal touch, the human factor will always be there. And in communication, in making sure that you interact, that will always make the difference. I think working from home, working from the office, I still get a lot of energy if I just meet someone at the coffee machine and you have a really nice chat about how what that person drives. So I think that is something which will never disappear, and something that we need to keep in mind. So used in a good manner, have the right discussions. We have it in a global exco as well about how it can change our proposition towards clients, but be mindful about the human touch, the personal touch, which always needs to be there.
That's for sure. Yes, for sure. I think AI, what it does is it complements the already existing human touch, further making something even better. Yeah, that's for sure. Thank you so much, Weber. That is the end of our panel discussion. We have covered quite a broad scope today. We've got from a finance, from a tech perspective, from social governance perspective. I would like to thank Nur Azhar, Kenlix, and Weber for sharing your insights with us. If you would like to know the salary trends across functions, top hiring industry, projected hiring trends, please download our salary guide via the QR code on screen. Just take off your phone and screen, and you'll be able to download a copy. The recording for this webinar will be available in a week's time, and we will update you via email. Once again, I would like to thank Natasha, David, Nur Azhar, Kenlix, and Weber and all our audience for spending your Thursday morning with us. Hope you find this session insightful and have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.